A Trump voting IRS employee woke up to the leopards eating his face after he was fired in the recent agency purge, which saw around 6,000, or around about 6% of the workforce being eliminated. Of those laid off employees is Robert McCabe. Now, he recently spoke to NBC 10 and said, "Hey, look, on Thursday I went in, you know, as usual to my job. I had some issues logging in. So, I had to sit around and kind of wait for instructions because figure out what's going on, whether it be a tech error or something like that, because that happens, or what's going on." He then received a pink slip. Yeah, so he's done. So McCabe spoke to a reporter, Brian Sheehan, about his experience and why he had at one point this election voted for Donald Trump.
I did support him. I was a Trump supporter. Um, when he talks about government waste and all that, yes, I'm behind it. I believe there is a lot of stuff in the government that needs fixing, and that's part of the reason why I actually wanted to work for the government. Actually, to help change the things that are wrong in the world. And I thought that someone with like his business acumen would have come in with a fine-tooth comb and actually found it, instead of coming in with a wrecking ball and destroying people's lives for no reason.
Yeah, that business acumen that he was talking about, that got Trump 6 bankruptcies, including a casino. How do you bankrupt a casino? Okay. Well, I know how. You load it up with debt and then you just stop making the payments. That's how. This guy is the guy who did that is in charge of a country now. Okay. You got the little Doge blunderkins that are in there that had access to our entire treasury system. Okay. So when you think about it, by the way, what Doge and Trump are trying to do right now is what vulture capital firms do. Okay. So they'll take something over, they take over a business, right? They'll load it up with debt. They'll sell off assets. They'll fire the workforce. They'll pocket the money from the sales. And then they get their golden parachute when the whole thing goes belly up. Okay. That's it. It's bankrupt. It's gone. Business is destroyed. But hey, as executives, we made a lot of money. Right now, what do you think he's doing? He's slashing the workforce. He's tearing apart these agencies, dismantling them. And then, of course, doing a lot of privatization. He wants to privatize the post office. He's, trying to sell that stuff off and break apart any regulatory agencies. And this is all while the Republicans in Congress plan on doing $4.5 trillion worth of debt in the form of massive tax cuts, mainly for the rich. So this is him treating the United States, okay, our country, like one of his failed businesses. Okay, that's what's going on. To say that he's got business acumen, one of the biggest lies that's ever been peddled. Okay, and that's according to people who knew him, people that made him famous on The Apprentice. All right, they're like, this guy's an idiot. Why would you vote for this guy and say he's a successful businessman? No, what happened is The Apprentice actually saved him because it gave people the impression that this guy, oh, he's a serious businessman. No, he would have made much more money had he taken the money that he had been left by his family, by his daddy, and just put it into an index fund. That's it. Okay, that's it. But so here's the thing, though. While vulture capitalism is quite unfortunately legal, this does not appear to be. Okay, him taking a wrecking ball to these various federal agencies. Alex J. Berman, executive vice president of the National Treasury Employees Union, Chapter 71, told NBC 10 that these letters that workers, had received, okay, workers like McCabe, are unlawful. Quote, they say essentially, your ability, skills, and performance do not make you a fit for federal employment. In addition, your performance is not up to par. This is patently untrue. These are being all issued with the exact same wording, to every single one of these probationary employees, whether they have just gotten out of training and had no performance metrics, whether they have been here for almost their entire year and had very good performance appraisals. And this is what we've been seeing from all these other different agencies, people being fired, probationary employees, with the lie that, oh, it's because your work sucked and all that stuff. No, just complete and utter lie. Straight up lies from the liar in chief. Okay. And yet, of course, you had so many people who actually thought that, oh, no, you don't understand. Donald Trump really does want to go after waste, fraud, and abuse. No, what he believes is waste, fraud, and abuse is just literally you having a government job. That's really it. Look, these cuts are about gutting agencies that Republicans have never liked. I mean, they hate the IRS. That's one that should be very, very obvious, right? But also ones that protect consumers, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They hate that, even though it actually clawed back about $21 billion from these companies that had been stolen from the people through these various, schemes. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau actually got that money back to the taxpayer. Okay. And so not only that, but you have basically any agency that regulates companies like Tesla and SpaceX being dismantled. Okay. But that said, for what's going on with the IRS, I mean, Robert Reich breaks it down pretty well in this post. For every $1 the IRS spends auditing the top 1%, it can collect $13. For every dollar the IRS spends auditing the top 1.1%, it can collect $26. Laying off 7,000 IRS employees during tax season is not efficiency. It's about making it easier for the rich to evade taxes. And there it is. And by the way, if you're wondering, since it is tax season, how this will affect you, well, if you are planning on getting a federal refund, which millions are, would not count on it coming anytime soon. In fact, an IRS labor shortage in the middle of tax season could be devastating for taxpayers who want fast refund checks or need assistance, according to some accountants, like, for example, Richard Pond, a certified public accountant in San Francisco. Speaking to USA Today on Wednesday, said mass firings definitely will impact tax season as cuts would have immediate impact. The IRS is already understaffed and has difficulty hiring and retaining employees, according to the National Taxpayer Advocate, an independent organization within the IRS. Yeah. So.
Whoopsie.
But it really isn't, because at least now rich people will be able to dodge their taxes just a little bit easier, thanks to the sacrifices of brave patriots like Robert, who voted gleefully for the leopards, believing that they will not come for his face, just for everyone else's. Look, at the end of the day, Americans are the most propagandized people on the planet, who do not know that they are being fed a constant stream of bullshit. It's true. Corporate media like Fox News, yes, they are corporate media, and CNN, they were all saying that Donald Trump, what are you talking about? Project 2025? No, he doesn't plan on doing that. In fact, he says he stepped away from it. That's right. He's never going to do Project 2025. He hates it. Even though it's very, very clear to anybody who's been paying attention that Project 2025 was absolutely the plan. And now we are seeing it right in front of our eyes, right in front of our faces. They're doing Project 2025. This is all part of that. But yeah, they took a known liar at his word. And this is why nobody really has any sympathy for people like Robert. Now, personally, I think it's great when people admit that they're wrong and take ownership of it. I think that is something that is, worth talking about, and something that, it's like, okay, yeah, I got a little bit of respect for that. All right. The thing is, I really wish, because there's so much information out there about Trump, it's not like he's an unknown, right? I just wish they had actually realized that they were wrong before they made a vote that screwed everyone else. Voters in Representative Rich McCormick's Georgia district erupted in anger after the congressman tried to tout the massive federal spending cuts proposed by Elon Musk's non-department Department of Government Efficiency.
So Georgia is the budget, not the president. And you are doing us a disservice to set that down and not stand up for us. And
a lot of this stuff will be litigated. And I'm going to come and stand in front of you and take your questions and try to answer them as honestly as I can. Then let's do that, okay? But if you're going to just yell at me, that's not going to be an effective counter.
Look, I'm just don't yell at me. It's going to be litigated, right? It's going to be litigated. Now, what he means by that is the fact that yes, it is Congress that controls the budget, not the president, and yet the president has been, making all these and specifically an unelected person like Elon Musk has been doing all these unilateral firings, okay, with the president's blessing, and freezing all this money, this funding to these different agencies, shutting them down. He does not have control over this, okay? This is, again, yeah, you got to go through Congress, and there's no reason that it couldn't go through Congress because Republicans control Congress, but Donald Trump is a dictator, he's a king, he wants to be, and so he's just doing this all on his own because, frankly, Republicans are letting him. Republicans like Rich McCormick, okay? And not only are they letting him, but they're defending it too. They're defending how weak they are, okay? So now, credit to reporter Greg Bluestein for getting this video. They're posting it on social media because it's important. It is important to see that there is pushback to this Doge agenda of gutting government services for the benefit of a very few. Look, the government services that they're looking to gut are Medicaid, right? That's one of them. Republicans with Trump's blessing are eyeing about $880 billion in cuts. They're not taking a scalpel to the program. Understand, they're taking a freaking sledgehammer, okay? And as I mentioned, it's just to pay for massive tax cuts for the rich, about $4.5 trillion. Congressional Republicans pushed a tax and spending plan through the House Budget Committee that would cut at least $2 trillion from public services. That's things that go to you and me, okay? Food stamps to the less fortunate, of course, in the Farm Bill, and you've got, from the USDA, and then you've got these Medicaid cuts, and of course others, because they still haven't come up with $2 trillion. Okay, understand that they're looking to come after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Medicaid's already in there, but now Social Security and Medicare. Oh, but Donald Trump, you won't touch it. BS. BS. He is a known liar who is lying. Bullshit. Okay, that's it. Now, look, this is not about waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, what they're doing is trying to kick people off healthcare and take food out of the mouths of children. All right. And now, that said, that's going to impact Donald Trump's own voters. Okay, so, some of them maybe are not so happy with this, okay? Now, speaking of cutting programs that Trump voters are relying on, McCormick then floated those cuts to Medicare and Social Security.
4 Democrats that said that they were willing to, we're not going to take it away from anybody who hasn't. We're not going to take it away, change anything for anybody who's about to get it. But maybe if you're 10 years away, you adjust it by 3 months. You're 20 years away, you adjust it by 6 months. You're 30 years away, you adjust it by a year.
raise the cap.
Lifting the cap when you have $36 trillion of debt and you're the world currency, you're the standard world currency, and you're paying $1 trillion of debt interest per year is not going to fix the eventual economic collapse of the United States. It's just not. It's just not. if you don't do something with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is 75% of our budget is mandatory spending. 75%. Google it right now. 75% of your budget is mandatory spending. We have a 30% deficit. If you cut all of your military and all of your discretionary spending, you still have a shortfall. We are heading towards a cliff of where we will no longer be the economic standard of the world, which we've been since 1972, and you will lose your place in history, you'll lose your buying power, your interest rate will go up, and you'll add $9 trillion.
We're all trying to get through this. Let's be respectful while the congressman speaks.
And that's how you know it's not going well. Oh, guys, we need to be respectful here, okay? Got to be respectful. Interesting. So I love how that one woman brought up, hey, why don't we just raise the cap? Which is about the simplest way of ensuring that Social Security continues to be funded without interruption, okay? Without reducing benefits or possibly missing payments, right? So now, that would, of course, involve raising the caps on taxable income or just removing it completely, right? For income subject to Social Security taxes. So, but the thing is, Republicans don't actually want to do that because that means rich people would have to pay more. Okay, look, in 2025, that cap went up to $176,100. Okay, so that's how much maximum someone has to pay into a year for Social Security, to fund Social Security. Now, most people will never make that money within a year. Okay, they won't make that much. Or even, anywhere near enough to actually hit that cap. But rich people do. Rich people hit it almost immediately. Elon Musk, by the way, if all of his income had been taxed, he would have been able to pay off all of his Social Security tax for the entire year in a minute. Richest man in the world, right? Then you have others. Alexander Karp, CEO of Palantir, likely pays all of his Social Security tax in about 19 minutes past midnight on January 1st. Hock Tan, CEO of Broadcom, and Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, could have paid theirs by about 12:30 a.m. Okay, it does not take long for the super wealthy to pay the maximum amount in Social Security, okay, in their Social Security taxes. You lift that cap, and suddenly they would be paying more. Okay. In fact, in the first few hours of 2025, more than 229 U.S. workers earning about $50 million a year will have likely paid all of their Social Security taxes for the entire year, and then they don't have to pay any more. Get rid of it completely, they would fund Social Security up until the end of time. Now, the other thing that he talks about is he brings in the debt, right? Oh, we've got so much debt. We've got so much debt. Hey, you know what doesn't add a penny to the debt? Social Security. Yeah. It's in a trust fund. It's already paid for. There's billions of dollars sitting in that trust fund right now. It does not add to the debt, but you know what does add to the debt? Tax cuts for the rich. The Bush tax cuts, and then the first Trump tax cuts, and then these upcoming tax cuts for the rich. Look, these Republicans, they want your Medicare. They want to raid your Social Security. They want to gut Medicaid for poor people, okay? All to pay for tax cuts for billionaires so that maybe Elon Musk this year or maybe next year can become a trillionaire. He's already made billions of dollars since the election while unlawfully firing people because he has no authority and gutting the very agencies that are supposed to regulate him and his businesses, okay? Now, Republicans Mike McCormick, all they're doing is out there just trying to justify a further theft of public money that he's going to redirect to the rich. So, now that said, it is pretty interesting and actually kind of heartening to see that some of these Republicans are getting a bit of an earful from their constituents, who I would say likely did vote for Donald Trump. I didn't see a black person in that crowd, okay? I did see a lot of people that would stereotypically fit the definition of Trump supporters. This is a deep red district. It's a plus 30 Republican district. Very, very unlikely to be a lot of progressives and leftists and liberals there. Okay, so I'm thinking that a lot of those people who showed up were Trump's voters, were McCormick voters, okay, who did vote to make America great again, and are now finding out that Trump, his entire goal was not to make America great again, but was to stay out of prison and to continue, what he started in his first term, which is try to stuff as much money into his pockets as he can. And thanks to the Supreme Court, by the way, there's nothing to stop his blatant robbery of the Treasury. And if he decides to ignore the courts, what can we do? Look, try to warn you guys this would happen. A lot of people didn't listen. Okay. We tried to warn you about Project 2025. Oh, it's just TDS. That's it. They're not going to do Project 2025 because the American people hate Project 2025. In the polls, not very popular. So of course he's not going to do it. He's going to be held accountable by his own base. Oops. Maybe next time, if there is a next time, maybe not consider voting for the people, the leopards, who were telling you in the open, hey, we can't wait to eat your face. And maybe, I don't know, this is probably too much of an ask, but maybe you should try to listen to those who are doing their best to give you factual information. Even if it's not comfortable for you to listen to. I get it. Cognitive dissonance and all. But I think it's better to hear the truth than to find out that the leopards are at your door. A Trump-supporting congressman may be siding with Democrats to prevent massive cuts to an important program that gives health care to poor people and children. Senator Josh Hawley recently came out to oppose a key component of President Donald Trump and the White House's GOP budget proposal, which again is the massive cuts to the Medicaid program. They're looking to cut about $880 billion from that program, along with, of course, over $200 billion from the SNAP program that helps feed hungry people, especially children. So now how could they make this much in cuts? Well, there's a couple of ways that they could achieve them, right? Which, of course, will all be disastrous for the people that rely on them. Now, first, they could straight up cut the amount of the ACA Medicaid funding, okay, so that the states that accepted the expansion would receive far less in federal funding. Some of those states, of course, would completely end that program if the federal government's contributions to it fall below a certain threshold. Okay, states like Arizona, for example, right? If federal funding falls below, I think 60% from what I can remember, then boom, trigger law. It's over. No more Medicaid for anyone in the state of Arizona. So that would, of course, be disastrous and kick millions of people off the program. Now, they could also shift to block grants or per capita grants, right? So block grants would give states a set amount of money regardless of the number of enrollees, okay? Now, per capita grants would be a little different. It would pay the states based on the number of enrollees in each state. So, okay, currently the federal government matches a certain percentage of state spending each year with no cap, okay? So now, that said, another thing they could do is, and this is what's most popular right now with the Republican base, with the Republican Congress, work requirements. So that seems to be the most likely way that they'll try to end up getting these Medicaid cuts. In fact, they already started trying this during Trump's first term. They had allowed several states to condition coverage for adults and whether they were working. Of course, there's a lot of people that are on Medicaid that are working. That is unless, of course, they met exemptions like caregiving or going to school. Now, Arkansas, because of course, became the first to implement this measure. That led to about 18,000 people losing their coverage. Now, that said, federal judges did rule in 2018 that Medicaid does not allow for work requirements in the program. However, this administration, I got to warn you here that they don't really seem too keen on following orders of the court. Okay, so now those are the ways that they could do it. That said, the impact of these cuts would be absolutely disastrous. According to the Economic Policy Institute, these cuts could significantly decrease incomes for the bottom 40% of earners and disproportionately affect low-income households. Now, Josh Hawley, he said, look, okay, yeah, I'm against this. I'm going to file an amendment barring the cuts to Medicaid, according to HuffPost. And he said he's tempted to vote for similar Democratic amendments. Okay, interesting. Now, Hawley has also spoken out in opposition to the idea of cuts to Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program. So, and the reason, of course, Republicans are targeting those is because they want to pass massive tax cuts for the rich. So now, he's not the only one, by the way, but before I get into the others that are thinking a certain way, tried to defend this program, let's be clear, the reason that they're on board is because they know that these cuts will hurt their own voters, okay? They will hurt their own voters, their own supporters, and as such, will hurt their reelection chances, okay? Let's be very clear about that, right? Steve Bannon, right, who recently gave his own Roman salute, okay, at CPAC, he admitted, like, hey, look, we can't just gut Medicaid right now. Well, why is that? Well, millions of Trump supporters would be hurt by it. So again, it's just about, hey, man, whoa, I don't want to affect the people that I care about. I mean, I don't want those people to get Medicaid. I'm totally fine with taking away food and medical care from those people, and we all know who, they're talking about when they say that. But when it comes to our voters, that might affect us in the elections. So let's not do that, okay? Because there would be a massive electoral revolt. And right now, Republicans cannot afford to do that. Maybe once they figure out a way to rig the elections, then, okay, maybe then they can start doing some massive Medicaid cuts to give themselves tax cuts. But right now, currently, there are Republicans saying, hold on a minute. If we do this right now, this is going to be an absolute disaster for us, okay? Now, joining Hawley are House Republicans Don Bacon, David Valadao, Tony Gonzalez, Nicole Malliotakis, several others, about 7 total, okay, in the House. Now, in a letter to Speaker Mike Johnson, penned by Gonzalez, these congressmen point out, slashing Medicaid would have serious consequences, particularly in rural and predominantly Hispanic communities, where hospitals and nursing homes are already struggling to keep their doors open. All right. Now, Representative Don Bacon had told Newsweek of this, quote, I want to see budget reconciliation passed because I want to secure the border, expand our energy production, improve our military, and extend the tax cuts. And that's what he really wants to do, is extend the tax cuts. But we don't want to make significant cuts to Medicaid. And the current proposal appears to do just that. President Trump even warned against significant cuts to Medicaid. I've asked the House leadership to prove to us that $880 billion in cuts to E&C won't overly cut Medicaid. That is my request. Got to make sure it doesn't overly cut it. It means we're going to have to find savings somewhere else. Okay? There's really not many places where you can find it, honestly. But I don't know. I think that the answer to that request is going to be denied. Okay? Denied. But wait a minute. Didn't Trump say, I'm not going to cut Medicaid? Yes, he did say that. He's also a liar. Because he then praised the very budget that proposed $880 billion in Medicaid cuts. You know what that means? They're going to do it. They're going to do it. Why? It's because they want tax cuts more than anything for their donors. I'm pretty sure that these congressmen, even though they're saying, well, we're against it, they'll probably still vote for it with the Medicaid cuts in it. Or maybe they'll try to do some tricky math. Again, they have to do that in order to get it through budget reconciliation, which is why they're trying so hard to find some cuts somewhere. Okay? Budget reconciliation only requires a simple majority. That way, Democrats can't block it. So that's why they're going this route. Okay? So I don't have any faith in Republicans actually preventing this bill from going through. Maybe this is all just part of their song and dance to say, oh, we tried so hard to do it, but we just couldn't get it done. Or again, I think they'll come up with some tricky math to try to figure out how to make it work. But that said, it's because they work for their donors. And it's because they're massively afraid of Donald Trump. And what Donald Trump wants more than anything is massive tax cuts for himself. President Donald Trump's newly minted Secretary of Transportation, ex-Fox News host and real-world bro Sean Duffy, got an earful during a visit to California.
So if you want to go protest somewhere, if you want to shout at someone, go to the governor's mansion. Go talk to Democrats in the legislature who have brought us this crappy project, right? So we've seen over the course of the last month what DOGE has exposed with regard to fraud, waste, and abuse. And we're done with it. And you know what? You're going to have people who love fraud, who love waste, who love trains to nowhere. But all of us up here, we do not love fraud, waste, and abuse. We are going to use the taxpayer money efficiently and effectively, and this is a boondoggle. There is, and again, I would love if they build a rail. It was supposed to be done in 2020.
All right, so you can hear Sean Duffy talking about how this is wasteful spending, and we're going to do a compliance review. He said President Trump has thought about this project. He's talked about the project, and I think he was kind when he said that this project has been mismanaged. He told reporters, look, there were chants of course, build the rail. Another was we pay taxes. We want trains. All right. Now, Duffy, of course, had told the crowd, oh, well, you got a problem with it? Go talk to Gavin Newsom. Go talk to the Democrats in the legislature. Okay. Look, all right. So there is some criticism there that is warranted, right? This is the high-speed rail project in California that has run into a few issues, right? So what are these issues? The requirement to follow existing transportation corridors, project not being fully funded. That includes federal funding as well, lack of a consistent, reliable funding source, the need to execute new agreements with all local agencies, regulatory agencies, and utility companies. So look, yeah, I can admit that the rail project's a bit of a mess, okay? What should be pretty straightforward, a route from San Francisco to LA, yeah, it should be straightforward, but the building it has been anything but. So there are reasons, of course, for this. According to Garth Fernandez, Central Valley Regional Director for the California High-Speed Rail Authority, said, the most challenging aspect was being in construction ahead of property acquisition. So wait, you really didn't do great planning on that, right? Our project within the 119 miles needed to acquire around 2,300 properties to construct. We are also relocating more than 1,800 utilities, ranging from telecommunications, electric, gas, water, and sewer, that needed to be done in advance of completing the major infrastructure elements. One of the several challenges that was the scope of the work was not fully defined when project was advertised. Most agreements with local agencies, regulatory agencies, and utility companies were not executed at the time of advertisement, thereby creating additional requirements and restrictions from the owners, constrained work windows, and added scope as these were finalized. All this resulted in significant scope modifications, a need for acquiring several more properties, resulting in cost and schedule changes. So, yeah, a bit of a mess, right? Currently, they've spent about $15 billion building it, and it's about 119 miles worth of tracks so far. Now, Fernandez says, look, the hard part was the acquisition, right? It's about 97% complete. There's a handful of them remaining, several utilities that got to be moved, and of course, that's going to take time, obviously. This is a huge project from the get-go, okay? Which means, yeah, It's going to take time. It's going to be expensive. Now, it is taking a lot more time than as advertised. And, of course, there's going to be costs, right? Now, the thing is, though, any big infrastructure project is going to run into issues. It's going to take some time. It's going to cost money, right? Now, the federal highway system, I mean, a lot of people thought that maybe that was crazy. Oh my God, you're going to expand the highways to all across the country? That's insane. But we managed to do all that. So, just because the project currently has issues does not mean that it's a bad idea. It's actually a really good idea that there are a lot of people that are in favor of it. I mean, it would cut down on a lot of issues, cut down on traffic, cut down on air traffic, and have a nice, reliable, mode of transportation for lots of people between two major cities. Again, it's a great idea. A lot of countries have high-speed rail. If they can do it, China, Japan, etc., they can do it, then why can't we? Why can't we? What needs to happen is, of course, they need to go in, they need to figure out where the problems are and figure out a way to work around those problems. And I think that's what they're trying to do. What you do not do is just pull the plug on a project that's half done because suddenly, it's taking too long, costs too much. Wait, so you just abandon all the work that you've already done? Well, that's really stupid. That wouldn't make any sense. Look, California, yes, they have good ideas in California. Sometimes, or I should say a lot of the time, the implementation of those ideas is not so good, right? But that's okay. That's okay. You got to try it. You got to do some experimentation, got to figure out what works and what doesn't, okay? And so, that said, I like the idea of high-speed rail. I think it's a great idea. And if the state can manage to get it together, then this could be a absolute game changer, okay? That said, there are reasons that people like Trump and Doge and Republicans are against the high-speed rail. There's a lot of lobbying against that from the automobile industry, for example. Oh, can I think of somebody who's sells cars? In this case, electric cars that happens to be, high up in influence in the government right now? Someone who might benefit from selling more vehicles? Couldn't think of it. Can't think of one person. But look, again, one of the reasons that they're holding this up, again, is because of, yes, money, 2, lobbying, and 3, they just don't like it when people build good stuff. Okay, I don't think Trump. If Trump was doing it, well, then it'd be different. Be like, it's the literal Trump train. Yeah, look at that. It's so awesome. But since he's not, since it's California, since Trump hates California, hates Gavin Newsom and the Democrats, he's like, we're not going to fund that. So that's why he's doing this compliance review, which is going to hold up about $4 billion in federal funding that was already promised to them through, the Infrastructure Act that Biden had signed. But so look, here's the thing. I know this project has issues, as I just went through them, right? But perhaps, I don't know, Sean Duffy might be a little bit more concerned as Transportation Secretary with all the plane crashes that are happening right now. We've had like 5 plane crashes in the space of a couple of weeks. Yeah, I mean, sure, running into issues, running into building problems with building high-speed rail, that sucks, but at least it hasn't killed anybody. Okay, unlike these plane crashes. That said, of course, Duffy and Trump are blaming DEI. I thought they got rid of DEI. Okay, they're blaming Joe Biden, of course, Pete Buttigieg. Oh, you didn't invest in air traffic controllers. Really? Didn't? That's funny because in one of Biden's laws, he actually signed $25 billion towards infrastructure investments related to airports and air traffic control. Oops.
Whoopsie.
Now, I'm not saying that it was immediately fixed, because obviously it wasn't. But infrastructure takes a lot of time to build, as we've seen with the rail, right? But not just that, but it also takes a lot of time to hire and train people as well. And what did the Trump administration just do? They just fired a bunch of air traffic controllers because they were probationary employees, meaning they had only worked there for less than 2 years. So Biden had signed that infrastructure investment into law. Some of the people that ended up getting hired as a result of that were still in their probationary period, which means Trump just fired all the people that Biden had hired, okay, in order to do the air traffic stuff. So, oops. That's totally going to make our air traffic safer. Way to go. Way to go, dummy. Look, what's interesting here, and pretty ironic, is the fact that more high-speed rail, if they do manage to finally get this project done within our lifetimes, which we hope, that would actually reduce the need for air traffic, okay? And so, there's the irony there, and make things safer, and there would be less, again, normal traffic, because it's not like, California has a traffic problem, air traffic and ground traffic. And so, yes, this high-speed rail would be very, very nice and effective. That said, based on what I'm seeing here, this real-world bro doesn't really have a lot of experience, the experience necessary to really do any kind of compliance review, much less take the job of transportation secretary. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the real DEI was hiring this idiot. An Alabama grand jury has made the recommendation to abolish an entire city's police department. Huh. Wow. In Alabama, no less. Strange. Now, so what happened? Well, and where? Huntsville, Alabama, had some issues with their police department. In fact, about 5 officers, including the chief of police, were arrested and charged with things like corruption. Now, according to one of the law enforcement, this is Coleman County District Attorney Champ Crocker, okay, who said, quote, "This is a sad day for law enforcement, but at the same time, it is a good day for the rule of law." Wow. Now, this was after announcing the charges, which included the spouse of one of the officers during a press briefing on Wednesday. So what exactly happened, though? Well, there's not a ton of details, but I'm going to give you what I have, right? So now the investigation basically involved the department's evidence room, okay? Now, this evidence room apparently was not secured at all. And related to that is the death of a Huntsville dispatcher, 49-year-old Christopher Michael Willingham, who was found dead from a toxic drug combination of fentanyl, gabapentin, diazepam, amphetamine, carisoprodol, and methocarbamol. That was all, by the way, at work. He died at work. Wow. The grand jury found that Willingham's death was the direct result of Huntsville Police Department's negligence, lack of procedure, general incompetence, and disregard for human life. Jeez. So, now that said, none of these officers were, charged with Willingham's death, so they ruled it basically an accident, okay? Now, Crocker pointed at the unfettered access that a lot of people had to this evidence locker, okay, or evidence room. And so, they tied that to the grand jury's finding regarding the dispatcher's death. So, guy gets apparently into the evidence room, does a whole bunch of drugs, and then dies. Yikes. Now, that, of course, makes sense. in the context, this grand jury's finding of them finding out that the Hanceville Police Department had failed to account for, preserve, and maintain evidence, and in doing so failed the crime victims and the public at large, making the evidence unusable. Well, I mean, unusable in the cases, sure, but apparently somebody found a use for them. Now, among those charged are Hanceville Police Chief Jason Shane Marlin, who was charged with failure to report an ethics crime and tampering with physical evidence. Officers Cody Allen Kelso and Jason Scott Wilbanks were charged with computer tampering, and of course tampering with physical evidence as well, conspiracy to commit a controlled substance crime, and use of an official position for personal gain. Damn. Officer William Andrew Shelnut was charged with tampering with physical evidence. Eric Michael Kelso, who was a reserve officer, as well as his wife, Donna Reed Kelso, were charged with unlawful distribution of a controlled substance and conspiracy to unlawfully distribute a controlled substance. The distribution charges are not based on the distribution of anything within the evidence room, and they are accused of distributing certain drugs to other individuals, including some of the other defendants. So basically, this guy was dealing the drugs. He was dealing drugs as a police officer. That actually does not surprise me at all. Okay. I mean, look, let's be honest. Okay. And I know it says that's like, well, you know, they weren't actually using the drugs or distributing the drugs that were in the evidence room. Really? Well, at least one of them was that dispatcher might have been getting the evidence room. But again, how do you know? Because that evidence room, anyone could go into at any time. And if there's drugs in there, what's to stop them? Nothing. So now, that said, why am I not surprised by this? I mean, like, what are you talking about? Police dealing drugs? Yeah. This is not the first story that police have been caught dealing drugs, okay, that they have seized in some cases, right? In other cases, and I remember doing this, I think it was a ProPublica report, talking about how police across the country have been basically selling guns. Yeah. So not in this case, as I mentioned, there was nothing about selling guns here, but selling and dealing drugs and probably doing the drugs. Oh, definitely. Now, that said, so with all of this, you know, these 5 police officers, remember, it's a small town. So the grand jury was like, throw it all away. Like, we're done. Like, corrupt and rotten to the core. Here's what the grand jury said. Quote, they're an ongoing threat to public safety with a rampant culture of corruption that has recently operated as more of a criminal enterprise than a law enforcement agency. Wow. Holy crap. Okay. I mean, how corrupt, openly corrupt do you have to be for a grand jury to be like, you know what? That's it. Gone. Abolished. You are done.
Bing, 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 boom. It's God.
Now, look, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be police, right? No, of course. Of course not. These police officers will just be coming in from other towns, other jurisdictions, okay? And that's because the police in this town were too corrupt, okay? They were too corrupt to police this area. Now, I wish I could say that I am shocked by this, that I'm surprised that something like this had happened, but I'm not. What I am actually more surprised of is, holy crap, they're actually being held accountable. Whoa. Now that, I did not see coming. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/ Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.